You're too tall for the podium anyway.
I know. I'm kind of feeling
The one time you get it, you're too tall for it. Okay.
Come back. How y'all doing?
Good.
Glad to hear it. Mad respect for the Sunday crowd. It's not the easiest.
How are you doing on this Sunday?
I'm doing great.
We're sorry for the snow.
Oh no, I like it. I'm from Texas. We haven't had snow in 2 years. At all.
Oh.
That's mind blowing.
I'd be more surprised if you did have snow.
Yeah, no, I liked the snow. We did something in the snow. Oh yeah, we walked through it to get to, we went to the Bear Burger. Just right by here.
We here?
Yeah,
Oh.
the place was solid. That was me walking through the snow. Oh, we also went to North Market. And
What'd you get there? It's so, I love that place.
I got like 5 salsas.
Yeah, they have a lot of. I'm sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
They have like lot of samples. Lot of samples
I did not get any samples.
of salsa.
Seems I did it wrong. Oh, of the salsa.
Yeah, of the salsa. They have like samples of like salsas, cheeses, meats, everything.
So the salsa restaurant I went to, they did have a little or salsa store, I guess. And I love that there's stores that specialize these days. Like there's an olive oil store.
Yeah.
Well, they're actually pretty common.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well I guess I'm just not that cultured because I've never seen an olive
Yeah,
oil
Columbus.
store. Oh.
Welcome to Columbus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to like wax my mustache before I went in there. Get able to grow a mustache, wax it, and then go in there. Yeah.
Baby steps.
But at the salsa place, like they had one of those little ketchup dispenser sort of things on top of one of the salsas or hot sauces, and they had little cups. But it's like, what? You think I'm just gonna drink your salsa? Like no chips or nothing. Only the brave may venture, I guess.
What was the place called? Because I want to now check that out the next time I'm at the North Market.
North Market is all I know.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember the name of a single restaurant.
I'll keep an eye.
Salsa place.
Okay.
Yeah, good luck. I think there's only one. I think there was only one salsa joint I saw. It was near a boba tea shop.
I know which one you mean. I know that one.
Cool.
I know that one. Thank you. I'll have to go there next time.
Rad. So I guess this was a generic Q&A. So it's time I started asking y'all questions.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. This is Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all have an equivalent? So, let's start with how far? Which coast are y'all closest to?
East Coast.
East Coast. Figured. I knew that. Totally. Be cool. I mean, no rush. So y'all are closest to the East Coast. So what's the nearest? Like, so in Texas, we have a lot of people that are like, I went down to Colorado and I came back with some now illegal drugs. So do y'all have an equivalent of that? Is there a state that y'all go to? Do y'all just go to Canada?
These are people do actually. You can catch a ferry, like you drive a couple hours north.
Take a ferry to Canada?
Yeah, you can go across Lake Erie.
Lake Erie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Are y'all close to Lake Erie?
Yeah.
I live next
Touching it, huh?
I live next to Lake Erie.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it like the creepiest Great Lake, or is that just the name?
It's like the worst one, but also like it's the only one. It's the only one I got. So.
Have any ships sank in Lake Erie? Is this a thing?
I mean, the thing is, like, I think it's the worst. I've heard everyone say it's the worst one, but it's like the only one I got. So.
Fish are still surviving in Lake Erie.
Yes.
Yeah, the big thing was.
That's good. Hey.
The big thing was in the Dutch Revolution, the river caught on fire. So.
Oh yeah.
The river caught on fire?
Yeah, the river that goes through Cleveland caught on fire.
What were y'all putting in it?
The essence of Cleveland just.
That's a
Yeah.
good question, yeah.
If that shows you anything about Cleveland, I think you already know everything you need.
Yep.
That's fun.
I love Cleveland.
That was a long time ago. It doesn't catch on fire
I'll
anymore.
go
though.
with the east side.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I've got a local river in DFW where I live, and the river's called the Trinity River, and the only fish I ever saw in that river had 3 legs.
Oh
And
my
it
god.
begged me to kill it. It didn't make any sound, but I could see with its eyes.
It had legs.
3 of them.
Oh
Think
my-
about that. Shouldn't even have 2.
It shouldn't have legs.
No, it shouldn't. Dragging itself along like a homunculus. It's awful. Yeah. Some, way to go. You'll cut that whole lake, just still breathing, live things in it. That's where the bar is at these days, I feel like. Does your largest body of water still sustain life? That's a win.
It's not that great, but only the people who live there can shit on it.
Mm. No.
Anybody else who shits on it is gonna get berated by the people who live there.
Yes, you
Good to
will.
know.
Yes.
So
Were
if
you letting me know I was in dangerous territory
if
there?
you go to Cleveland and say Lake Erie is shit, you're gonna get probably punched or something.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is why whenever I'm at ColossalCon, I never talk about Cleveland except Cedar Point.
That's great. Cedar Point, I've been to. That place was cool.
So your point's actually great.
So yeah, I never otherwise talk about Cleveland because I do not want to get punched.
Yeah. It was like going to Six Flags, only I didn't have to look at a Confederate flag. Topical.
Yay.
So now I guess y'all can ask questions too if you'd like. Hey, how's it
I'm
going?
plugging in to get an engineer for this one.
Oh, rad.
Sorry, I was running late.
Oh, no
Late
worries.
yesterday.
Put whatever you want up on that screen.
Don't tell me that.
I tell you.
You know better. Well, this is a family show, though, right? This is
Yeah, yeah.
Family friendly.
That's right.
How are you? Give me a minute.
Okay, cool. Do any of you have any queries? Yes. Hi.
Oh, hi. What is the most, for this panel that you can say, what is the most awkward or funny direction you've given or been given while recording that you can say here?
No spoilers.
I think it's probably Nambika. I used to give directions to Alejandro Saab. He's also, some of y'all might know him as Kagi
Yes.
Films. He's started out as like a Dragon Ball video game YouTuber kind of guy, but he's also got a great voice and really good acting instinct. So he's been doing some a lot of roles up at Funimation. I think he recently got his first role in a Dragon Ball Z franchise thing.
Dragon Ball Legends.
Yeah, that. Whatever that is. What is Dragon Ball Legends? Is it a video game?
Yes, it's a video. It's a mobile
cool.
game.
Got it.
With an original character that's voiced by Alejandro named Shallot. Right there. Yes, that.
Nice. Yeah, you just got into that. So I have him for a show called Nanbaka, and I have him playing Nanbaka, and I have him playing his character is Uno, who's from England. Only the thing is, like, I didn't go with accents for this show because literally every character was from some strange country. I realized, and I also realized that like I didn't. Like, for the simuldub purposes, I would not have time or the ability, like, it was hard enough to figure out what everybody's name was by the time they were saying words, let alone what accents I would need them to have. And, like, there were characters that would have needed to have, like, Chinese accents if I was going to do a British accent. I was like, I'm not going to mess around with a Chinese accent. That seems like a terrible idea.
Yeah.
The only show that's ever pulled that off was, oh, that's cool. We got a Titan. The only show we have ever had do that was Ping Pong the Animation. And they not only had a Chinese accent, but also, like, the character mostly spoke Chinese. And they found a guy who was Chinese first language to do it. That's the classy way to do that. Yeah. Anyway, I would mess with Alejandro a lot. I would sometimes I was a couple. This was like my third show I was directing, and so I was getting a little bit of power coursing through my blood. Kind of wanted to flex, and so I would tell him things like I would, instead of saying like I need your character, like when he first came in, instead of saying like you should be like smooth, like dapper smooth, but also gritty. Instead of that, and that would have been confusing enough in itself because they're two, contrasting ideas. But instead of that, I was like, I want your voice to be like a bottle of wine, but buried in sand for years. Yeah.
Did you do an impression of that?
What he actually came up with?
Yeah.
No, that's his job. I have the worst range out of any voice actor who has managed to keep on voice acting. What I have instead of range is just like my voice actually aged over time, so maybe that confused people into thinking I have a range. Yeah, like my options are, I can talk a little bit fancy, and I guess that works for something, or it will someday. And I can talk like this, which is normal, and like I guess I can be more of a dick. My bad. No images for that one. It just shows me like beating up a cat. Terrible. There was a rumor that went around online that I had kicked a dog because my friend Brittany Dvorak, she I guess was on a forum and she sarcastically said that she saw me do this because it like came up in some sort of unrelated conversation. And anyway, the next thing that happened was like on my, do any of you remember that social media site where people, like anonymous people ask you questions and you answer them and then it posts your response to the questions?
Oh, like Kit Kat?
Yearbook?
I don't know. I don't remember what it was called. Maybe?
Yak? Or something like
I
that?
don't know.
Was it that one?
Maybe?
That was going around like last year.
Oh, this was years ago. This was like when I was like 17. And I think I was just craving the Q&A experience. You know, it'd been a couple years since we closed out Alphonse. Just needing some attention, so I get on this site. And I just got like 20 questions from different people about why did you kick that poor dog? Or just, Aaron, you monster, ... And it's like, there's no question here.
So I asked you why you kicked the dog.
That's what I get. All right, any other questions? Yeah.
This is probably a question you get all the time, but how did you like start out in voice acting in industry?
Sure. Yeah, so it's a shame because my story like should have been an example to kids my age that like, you too can do this, you too can be a hero. Except that like the way I got in was through nepotism. So awkward. Yeah, my cousin, his name is Justin Cook, and he played Yusuke Urameshi in Yu Yu Hakusho. He was directing for Fruits Basket, and at the time, Funimation was a young studio. They had a limited actor pool. Agencies were not really paying attention to Funimation at the time. And so he was like, we could either get a woman who can sound like a boy, we can get a Monica Rial in to play this random character in Fruits Basket. It was young Aikido was my very first role. Young Aikido in a flashback scene in Fruits Basket. Or we could get a real boy. And I was pretending to read Lord of the Rings as in second grade as a 9-year-old. Is that how that works? 5, 6, 7, 8? Yep. Yeah, as a 9-year-old. And so he was like, you seem vaguely literate. Why don't you come and try this? And if it doesn't work out, you won't know what you're missing. So I did it, and it worked out pretty well. Because all the kid had to do was tell another kid that he was a freak and nobody would like him while he whipped his feet. That was so I was young Aikido, and that was who's the main boy? Like Yuki. I was whipping Yuki's feet in Fruits Basket. It was terrible. And I guess I was just a little sadist because it worked out. And then he was like, you know what, you did so great as that. And since that was only one line, now like 6 episodes later, you can play Hiro Soma, who's also a little turd. And Hiro Soma is he just spends the whole time sassing Toru and just twisting her words to make them seem like they're mean. And most importantly, I was very good at parroting inflections, I think. So you could tell me that it was better to hit a word, or you could try to give me real direction, like, I think you're feeling more X right now. Or you could just say the line, like, you're a freak. And then I would be like, you're a freak. And it's like, yeah, there we go. Caca. Yeah, so that was my early talent, was parroting, and I gradually started to be able to predict what it was that I would be asked to parrot given certain situations over the course of the next 8 years. And I would get occasional work. I would have long spells of no work. But I had school going on, so like I wasn't too worried about it. And eventually I got fairly competent just through like sheer plugging along. Yeah, so that's how I got started. What I would like to follow that up with is how 2 other people that I know got started. And that would be Justin Briner, who plays Deku in My Hero Academia, and Sarah Wiedenheft. They were actually in the same bundle, the same set of auditions that were hosted by Jerry Jewell. And Funimation does open auditions. You can email voice.actor@funimation.com. You can email that and then get onto their open audition list. So they did that. They waited like a year to hear back. They got called in. Jerry had them cold read some characters, and they both had acting backgrounds, and they got it. So that's how normal humans do it. And they're very successful. They work at Funny a lot. So yeah, just, hey. Justin was also in Nanbaka. He plays the character Nico. Nico's also incredibly high pitched. That dude has a range. So like I can sound like a teenage boy, but like I can't sound like that teenage boy. Yeah. Any other questions, y'all? Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I know that you were in the Arslan anime. If you still remember the plot, I want to know what you think about it.
So remember the blank?
The plot.
Oh, the plot of Arslan?
Yeah.
I liked season 1 a lot. I think my favorite things about it were I liked my relationship with Daryun. I thought that was very strong because like he ended up not only being like my best knight, but also like my my emotional support system for whenever I felt like maybe I didn't have the right to cause all this strife. And like really, I don't know that anyone ever does have the right to start a war, And so I really was able to sympathize with Arslan on that front. But the fact that he had Daryun backing him meant a lot to him. For some reason, more than having Narcissus or anyone else backing him mattered. I also really liked giving my final speech to my crowd before we were gonna take back, I forget which city it is to be honest, but giving that speech, I was pumped. Yeah, because the reason I was so pumped is because I play the Total War video games a lot. And Rome Total War, that video game, the original Rome Total War, would always start with your general giving an epic speech to their men. And it would either be like a really rousing, beautiful speech about like how, we may be outnumbered, but but our hearts are braver, and our men are of a higher quality, etc. And he'd say real things about the army difference. He'd be like, we've got more archers, so we should let the foe come to us. But the best was when we were losing. Like our army was just worse, and the general was new as well. Because if it was a good general, he'd give a good speech no matter what. But if the general's new and your army sucks compared to the enemy, he'd be like, yes, it's true that we're outnumbered, but they are also of superior metal. And they have more archers, so we should probably go with them, or we have fewer infantry, so maybe we should let them come to us. I don't know. I want to go home. Now join me in battle. So fun. So yeah, I like lived for those speeches whenever I was playing that video game, and so I was very excited to get one of my own. Season 2 of Arslan goes from being like an epic about like war and love and what have you to just like being about some dudes settling a local dispute with some pirates in a small port city. I didn't understand at all. It's like I thought the fate at Persia was at stake, and now we're gonna spend the whole season in a port city dealing with some pirates. And also, like, my character stopped talking, so I kind of it's like, what's going on? I'm gonna leave all this to my advisors? Yeah. But no, Arslan was fun, and he's a good guy. Any other questions? Yeah.
So when you were younger and doing Alphonse, and it was in the armor, like, what were was the like the reverb slight effect of him in the metal suit, was that like done in post, or were there like practical effects that you did around the mic to like get that?
To get the metal ring?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought everybody knew this by now. I'm so excited.
Maybe I know.
No worries.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad. I rarely talk about it just because I always thought. So people used to think that I had a metal. People learned that there was a metal bowl. That was pretty well known online, at least. But what a lot of people thought was that I wore it on my head. I'd like to reiterate, no, that was not on my head. It was in front of the mic stand, doing the same job as a pop filter, basically. And it was like a dog bowl, like a metal. Yeah. Mike still hasn't given it to me, and I'm a little salty about it. He's here at the con, so if you see him, maybe throw in a word for me. Thanks. Because I just want to eat cereal out of it once. And then I'll give it back. I think that's fair. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so there'd be a little clip on that, and it'd be on a stand, and it'd be right in front of the mic. This caused some problems because I was a fidgety kid, and if you hit a metal bowl directly against a highly sensitive, professional grade Newman microphone, the microphone doesn't dent. Not that I know of, anyway.
It's pronounced Neumann.
Is it really?
It's German.
You're kidding me. Neumann?
Neumann.
I'm not saying that.
I need it like this. Neumann.
Neumann.
There, he parrots it just.
Good.
All right. Well, I won't say the name of that microphone ever again. Out of fear of being wrong and a refusal to be right.
We're all friends here.
Yeah, if you hit a metal bowl on that microphone, it'll make a very loud, terrible ringing sound for everybody to enjoy for a good while. So that happened like several times over the recording process, which leads to a lot of other ways that I was a menace. My mom just came in. She drove me to every single one of my childhood recording sessions until I was 16, and then she would let me take her car.
We all know how that happened.
Yep.
And I made it in her car for about No, I made it to more than one session before I totaled your car. Yeah, at least 2.
Is that better?
It's twice as good. It's literally twice as good. You gotta take what you can, man. So yeah, then I totaled it, and then she started taking me to my sessions again.
It's like, you're not driving.
She's great.
Oh.
I did flip it. I was sideways. I didn't flip it completely upside down. Well, I think it felt like it was upside down at one point, but it ended up on its side. And so I was in the driver's seat, obviously.
Just how bad a driver were you?
Do y'all ever have those nightmares where you're trying to drive from the back seat and there's like a cinder block on the gas pedal?
I've had them so many
No, I think
They're the worst.
that's just you.
That's,
Yeah, he had them too. It's not just us too. It's twice as good. It's twice as relatable. That's just me. But yeah, no, I have those nightmares. Probably because of all the crashes. Oh yeah, but I ended up like dangling by my seatbelt, and I was just like looking down, cause I'm sideways completely, you know. And I'm like, I'm in the 2 fast lanes. I'm pretty sure I'm not facing traffic. I'm facing away from traffic, but like I can tell I'm in the road. So I'm like, well, I just need to wait to get hit, right? Like they're gonna hit. Someone else is gonna hit me. And then I'll skid forward. Luckily, there weren't any other me's on the road that day. So everybody else managed to avoid my car. And eventually a dude pulled over and like knocked on the glass. And he was like, hey, you good? I was like, oh yeah, just waiting. Is no cart? I'm not gonna get. And he's like, you should probably get out because your car's leaking. A little bit of gasoline. It's like, oh, is it gonna explode? He's like, no, it'll just burn you alive. You should really get out. Yeah.
So on that note, I just have to know, did you really hit a 7-Eleven and how?
Yeah, how do you run into a 7-Eleven? How do you not see a building?
This is the first time I've told this story at a con. All right, you have to allow me to be fairly vague. This is college days. I had a sleepover, and the person who stayed over snored viciously, like a lawnmower being revved, again and again and again. And I had work the next day, and you know, I tried everything. Have you ever tried to like wake somebody up so that you can get back to sleep first?
yes.
Yeah, so I tried a couple of takes on that, but you know, trying to race someone back to sleep, it's a paradox.
Yes.
There's no way it's happening. So the point is that I make it to sleep by like 9:30 a.m. and then you know my alarm goes off at 9:50 so I can get to work at 10. And so I get in my car. No, sorry. I try to brush my teeth and I'm out of toothpaste. And then I get in my car and I drive to the 7-Eleven to get some gum because my job at the time was as a waiter. Oh, did I mention y'all? Nobody makes a living as a voice actor.
Yes.
We all do something else. Okay, good. Y'all should know that. So yeah, I go to the 7-Eleven to get some gum so that my breath doesn't stink, so people will still give me tips. And my debit card gets declined. And so I'm just having a day. And I'm thinking about my day. Getting in my car, and I reverse, and I hit something. Oh. And I hear it, and then I hear like a grinding after, because like I haven't quite hit the brakes yet because I'm slow. And so I try to do 2 things. I try to put my car into drive, because I was reversing out of my parking spot, so that I'll stop grinding into the thing. And I also try to slam on the gas. But a part of my brain thinks you need to get off of the thing. So part of my brain sort of is indecisive. The point is I slam the gas and go into drive. And I just go straight up onto the curb, and I was driving a Ford Mustang. It's just a real Charger. And it's into the bricks. And it's just like my windshield is like above, my windshield's facing bricks. But like the nose of my car is in it. And so I'm sitting there. This is what I always do after I crash, is I sit there. And like, you'd be amazed how many people are working at your average gas station on any given day. Because I have 7 people yelling at me within 10 minutes. It's amazing. They maybe take a picture next to the car. The cop comes, he's like, all right, so like, you know, you admit fault and what have you. You seem painfully sober. I'm very confused by that. And I'm like, yeah, man. Same. Whenever I talked to my insurance agent about it a couple days later, he was like, and did you receive any citations? And I was like, no. And he was like, oh, by the way, the thing that I backed into was a little pipe that they had cut the top off of. It was a little, like, it used to be like a telephone pole or something that they'd cut the top off of. He was like, so you didn't receive any citations? Nothing like a DUI? Nothing like that? And I'm like, no. And he's like, were you intoxicated whenever you did this? He just kept on. He's like, I'm trying to ask if you were drunk. And I'm like, no, I told you. I wish I was.
Insomnia, sleep deprivation is very similar to being drunk.
That's what I blame. Yeah. That, and it was just very frustrating not being able to get a fresh mouth going. Phone?
You called me
Oh.
and asked if you report this to the insurance. Do we need to report this one? Yeah, we're gonna have to. I can't rebuild a 7-Eleven on my own.
Maybe what I was getting at was I could have driven out still. Because that's the other thing, is that I should have gotten a Ford sponsorship after driving to the 7-Eleven. Because my car drove out of that wall. The cop was like, well, see if you can drive out of it. I was like, okay.
So when you
I wasn't
Aaron
happy.
at cons for autographs, I want you to bring him one of these. Have him, and we'll touch base in like 10 years and see how many scope bottles he's autographed.
I want to come back in 10 years. I like that.
Hey, on that note, do you remember what you were going to get when you wrecked the
300Z.
that one? Do you remember where you were going? You were going to Target to buy a toothbrush.
Dental care is the enemy. I figured it out.
You should just have a
Bad
stock.
things happen to me whenever I think about taking care of my teeth.
You should just have a
So if I
stockpile.
just stop,
You need a stockpile. That's what you need. You just need like 30 toothbrushes in a
Yeah.
cabinet,
maybe that's the better call.
just so you don't ever have to go to a store for dental hygiene again.
I'm about to go to a dentist for the first time in a few years because the last time I went, it was just they attacked me. You know when they say like, okay, I don't know, this probably isn't universal at all because I think she was actually a sadist. I think she was an escaped Nazi scientist who somehow, you know, in Argentina they taught her how to like stay young by like drinking children's blood. And then she made her way up to the U.S. to practice as a dentist. So she's in my mouth, and she's got her tools, and I don't hear a scraping, but I feel her instruments tearing into me. And she says, "You're bleeding a lot. I think you may have gum disease." Yes, all right. All I'm saying is. What I want to say I can't say here right now because I just felt like she was just digging at my gum. She wasn't even touching my teeth. You can hear it when the instrument scrapes on your teeth, you know?
Yeah.
So I never went back. And I'm about to go back. And I talked to a lot of my coworkers at Funimation to find out who the gentlest dentist in town is. And then I found out that the gentlest dentist in town does not take my insurance.
Thanks, Obama.
So now I'm just going to the one that does in my area. So wish me luck. Yes.
Out of all your roles after Alphonse, which one was your favorite? Or which one did you have the most fun doing?
I think I'm gonna go with Leo in Blood Blockade Battlefront.
Yes.
Yay.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's just a really fun show. It's got a killer soundtrack and it looks really fun, and I felt like it suited. It was one of the few times that I was able to feel a distinct voice for a character because he's just like a little bit. He's like the most confident dork I've ever played. Yeah, that guy. And that was just a real fun show to be part of. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. There's a lot of runner-ups though. I was in Code Geass, Aikido the Exile.
Yes.
I think Yukiya is his name. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, it was.
So I have a lot of yous and yos in my cast roster. So sometimes I get it a little bit mixed up. But yeah, he was really fun because he was kind of bad. I like keep almost getting to play bad guys ever since I was a kid. I was in Trinity Blood as a young Fortuna, and I was like, finally a bad guy. He's a vampire. He drinks human blood. This is a villain. And then he like practically falls in love with this like nun girl, and he like stabs himself to stop himself from eating her. And he's just such a little sweetheart. Ugh. And there's, yeah, that show's pretty cool. They give you tarot cards with the DVDs, which I liked. And then like Dead Man Wonderlands, Yo, which is sort of like Yukiya, like to me, because it's yo. Anyway, Yo in that he starts out by like stealing stuff and he's spying on the main character. And so I was like, this is a bad guy. And then you find out he's doing it all for his sister. And she's crazy. And also he's weak and everybody beats the tar out of him. He gets beat up successively by like 5 different characters. And then he tells the main character's Gonta, he's like, Gonta, go on without me. And Gonta's like, got it. No problemo. It is not a heroic moment for Gonta, let me tell you. And Gonta never mentions me again. He never looks back. Yeah, it's rude. And there have been a few others since then. Devil's a part-timer.
Yeah.
I was like, this one is evil. I shot an energy hole through the main character's chest. This is a real evil villain. Yeah. And then the main character punches the evil out of me. Like he like punches me and then like my wings are gone. And I'm just like as is all the detail from my face, I'm suddenly like a little chibi boy. And like all the lights out go on this side of the city. And after that I become his roommate. And I'm just kind of mildly annoying. Like I'll tell him lies about knowing like where he can like pick up something magical when I really just want him to get the PSP from like the old abandoned building that I was hanging out in before he let me live with him. Yeah. So I'm still waiting. One of these days. Any other questions? Did I answer the first question? Good.
No, me?
You had one too. Go ahead.
Wait, from the first one, or I had my hand up again?
You had your hand up again.
Oh, didn't you also crash into a light pole at one point?
Next question.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I heard you say that. I wasn't sure if it was
Wait,
true.
what did you say?
Didn't you, like, with one of your cars, I feel like I heard you talk about this at another panel, where you said you backed your car into, like, a light pole?
That's how I crashed into the 7-Eleven, was I backed into the light pole, and then I freaked out and revved into the wall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is eventful.
But also, I've also crashed head-on into a light pole. This one was different. This one was because I got hit by a drunk driver.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was the passenger in the car. What is that for?
It's headache meds.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if it works.
I don't
That's cute. Okay, I got basically a drunk driver ran a red light and T-boned us, and then that shot us into a light pole. So that also happened. Yeah, and he like got out and he was like stumbly, and I was pretty sure that he was drunk, but he also had an accent, so it made it a little bit hard to tell. And he was like, "What say we just exchange insurance information and go on our way?" I'm not doing the accent part because I can't. And I was like, maybe like if you, and I was like trying to think of a way to be nice, but I was like, would it be legally binding if I made him take a picture, like with him, like they made me take a picture next to the 7-Eleven? I was thinking about that. And I was like, what if like I had him take a picture next to my car with "This is my fault," like on a sign? And then like we win at small claims court if he tries to be rude later. I was thinking about that, but then police showed up and they gave him a little test. And then they put him in their car. And yeah, so that's how I lost my Mustang, Roxanne. And now I drive, and after that I got a V4 engine car, and then that's the thing, Roxanne is the same car I drove into the 7-Eleven. Roxanne was fine after the 7-Eleven. Ford should seriously have sponsored me. Like, tougher than a brick wall. Ford Mustang.
Tougher than a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, so that did happen. Twice.
Thank you.
Yeah, back there.
I didn't be here at the beginning of the panel. I didn't know if someone asked this already. You voiced Alphonse as a kid. How did you get into voice acting when you were still a child?
Yeah. Somebody did ask, so I'll give you the quick rundown. Nepotism. Yeah, sorry. My cousin is Justin Cook. He was directing Fruits Basket. They normally use adult women to play little male boys. But because I was a real boy, that's me a little older. Because I was a real boy, they and I was reading, like, I was pretending to read Lord of the Rings at least. I don't know how much I was actually understanding, but I was reading at a fairly advanced level, and so Justin was like, let's let this real boy try and see if he sounds more like a boy than an adult woman does. And so what I lacked in talent, I made up for in being a boy who was the age of the person I was playing. So that's how I got my start. That said, if you
Wait, is that me?
Where'd you get that?
Is this an inappropriate time to make a "your mom" joke? I'm not saying my hard drive's full of naked pictures of you as a child. My hard drive is full of naked pictures of you as a child.
I feel like I answered that question enough. All I was gonna say is that there are actors who are your age that got in through legitimate means, without any shenanigans of family, and that would include Sarah Wiedenheft, who's also here, Justin Reiner. Both of them got in through the open audition process, which means that they sent an email to voice.acting@funimation.com, waited like a year, or maybe 2, because it's a very long list, and then they stood out because they had acting backgrounds whenever they did go to do the auditions. So yeah. Look at them, not at me. Basically. Yeah, it's the place. Oh, something I wouldn't do if you want to be a voice actor, is without being called after being on the open audition list, don't just like walk up to the address and knock until someone lets you in and then ask for an audition. That's generally frowned upon. Yeah. Which I can see how it's confusing, but it happens like once a month, I would say. And people are like, they like make that face. Yeah. Do the email.
I think that's next door.
Yeah, back there.
Yeah, do you have a favorite moment as a voice actor?
Just
A moment, just in general, like something you
Most
did or
memorable.
whew. Surely I do.
This is that moment.
Someone should bring him a cookie. Gee. You know, getting roasted was a pretty awesome moment. Having a bunch of people that I respect walk up and talk. You know how they say, like, don't encourage him, he just wants the attention? Like, even bad attention is still attention? Yeah, so that's me. I really like attention. So that was very validating for me, and I enjoyed it. And like, it was nice because I'd known those people for a long time, and I got to sass them back. That was real good. That's the best one that comes to mind right now. If we were talking about like in the booth, there may be certain moments like the end of Blood Blockade Battlefront Season 1. Honestly, the end of both Blood Blockade seasons, Leo has some like really strong moments of shouting with emotion that felt good to do. Yeah, like at the end of Season 2, Leo has this big fight with this giant monster that's just pretty much made of scythes. And I've just got, Leo just has an empty bottle of Jack Daniels. That he's like attached, I think he tied a rope to it. And that's all he's got. But he's going for it. And it's very, yeah. Just like me on my 21st birthday. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering, you said you wrote like Tokyo Ghoul, so
not all of it. So I started my training on Tokyo Ghoul Season 1, and I wrote like 2 episodes of that Monica only had to rewrite half of. And then Monica Real, pretty much, her and Josh wrote it for the next like 30 episodes, and then I came in at like episode 4 of Tokyo Ghoul Re. So the most recent of Tokyo Ghoul has been pretty much all me. Yeah. What was your follow-up? Sorry for interrupting.
No, that was actually kind of part of it. But
Okay.
I was wondering, like, so when you write stuff, like, do you have to, like, is there someone above you have to go to before it's official?
Sure, okay. So, and when I say wrote, I mean I adapted the Japanese script for, right? And for those of you who don't know, like, what that boils down to is we don't change the animation at all from the Japanese. There are some studios that do. I believe Netflix sometimes can adjust flaps in order to stay closer to trans, but at Funimation, we stick with the flaps exactly as they are. So a lot of it is me being like, okay, how do I justify pausing at that spot in this sentence and still preserve the same meaning? And I'm also reinflating what is a shortened translation. For shows like Tokyo Ghoul, which are prominent and which are Funimation titles, I also have the benefit of the translators giving me notes of extra context that they're not able to do for the subtitles because they have to shorten it so that you have an easy time going like read, watch, read, watch. So know that your subtitle translation, it is not gospel, it is Reader's Digest gospel. And so my job is to try to like reinflate it to something sort of like gospel, this meaning original translation or original intent, that kind of thing, but also make it flap out. So sometimes in the most like original that gets for me is like I'll come up with I will spend a long time anytime somebody's about to kick somebody else's butt, I'll spend a long time thinking about ways to say that. Like, what was it we came up with over Christmas, Mom? I'm gonna beat you like an old rug or something like that.
I'm gonna hit you into next week.
Yeah.
But he wanted to hit for a cooler shot.
I'm gonna hit you so hard your mom's face hurts, stuff like that. Those are just a couple that we brainstormed for the last one, you know. Yeah, that's where I spend a lot of time, and also like if the trans joke isn't quite funny for us, then I try to come up with something that just is funny and does have to do with the characters at play. Yeah, because I think the emotional content of trans is what's most important. But yeah, that was just like the preamble to what you actually were gonna had asked.
Yeah, that was both. That was exactly what.
Oh, you said you were asking about like, do I have to go through other channels? So once I finish my script, once I've poured my raw genius onto the page, I then pass it on to my script supervisors. That's Jeremy Kratz and Bonnie Klinkenbeard. That's Colleen Carroll now's sister is one of our script supervisors. And Bonnie or Jeremy, for Tokyo Ghoul it's Bonnie. Bonnie will read over what I did. She'll dot my I's and cross my T's wherever I failed to. She'll berate me for failing to do it again. Not really, she's real nice. But yeah, she'll do a basic review. She might send it back to me to do a couple of small fixes if she doesn't have time to mess around with it too much. And then it goes to Mike, who has the final say on whether or not that is what the trans becomes, or what our dub becomes. And I, as writers go, I grew up in the Goosebumps era, and so I write a choose your own adventure novel. That's my preferred way of writing because I have ideas that seem really fun to me, but then I start to think about the drawbacks. Anybody watch The Good Place?
Heard of it, I haven't
I write
seen it.
scripts like Chidi thinks. I'm like, oh, you could do this, but then we're not accounting for this, and you know. Well, I would love to work in their pseudo-familial relationship somehow at this line, because they're about to part ways. But at the same time, would they really say that? Would they say that, or would it just go unsaid and be said with their eyes? And so sometimes I'll write an alt just in the hopes that it colors the read. If you read this, maybe you'll think about it. Yeah. So I'll sometimes do like 3 alts, and the alts will say like with below, and that means that if you do this alt, then at the next line you should also do this alt. And then sometimes I'll have a couple of alts, so it'll be with green below, and that means you do the green alt line that's underneath, alt meaning alternative, and then with blue below, and that's for whenever there's multiple sets that have to be independent with each other. So it's turn to page 68, turn to page 73, that kind of thing. And they love it. The directors love it. They love it. They're fine with it. They accept it. They think that it's better than having bad scripts that require lots of rewrites. Yeah. And I tend to not have too many rewrites, so there's that. I'm going to ask at this juncture, I'm assuming we're closing in, so if you've already asked a question, or keep your hand up if you've never asked a question and been called on. Okay, thank you.
My question is a bit of a fun one, and I'm not sure if it will happen, but if there was ever a anime version of the Super Mario Brothers series, if you've heard of Super Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
Which character would you like to voice as?
It's Luigi.
I didn't know that they, well, I mean, I know, so okay, instead of answering this, because the thing, I think I'd want to be like a villain, but a minor villain. Like I want to be all the mushrooms. With the waddle, and like especially like I think, what are they? Goombas. Yeah, I'd want to be a Koopa Trooper. And I want there to be an interrogation scene. Where like, you know, Luigi's got me tied up. I don't know where you tie a Koopa Trooper, but he's got my legs tied up, I guess. He's got my little footsies tied together.
That's the input from the Dennis Hopper Super Mario.
Is that real?
That's real. It is bad. Do not see it. It's
that's
bad.
Haunting. Make it go away. That's awful.
No.
Thank you. Yeah. I'd wanna, because I really want to hear in the accent. I want to hear like. can't do it. I can't do an Italian Mario accent. You have ways of making you talk. Did we hit, how much time we got?
Like 15 minutes.
Okay, cool. I saw somebody outside that I wasn't sure if they were like the next panelist or something. Okay. So yeah, that answered that question, right? Also, I met, I don't remember his last name, but Charles.
Charles Manette.
Yeah, and he plays Mario.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He was a good time. Yeah. He told me about the audition process for Mario, and apparently, like, all it was, or like by the time he got the call back, they were like, yeah, we just kind of want you to ad-lib as an Italian plumber. And so he told me that he talked for 45 minutes into a microphone with no feedback. And then they stopped him. And they were like, yeah, that's great, you're in. It's mind-blowing to me. I could not talk for 45 minutes without seeking some sort of validation. Like, you could get like maybe 45 seconds out of me, and then I would be like, so what do you think? Got any notes for me? And they're like, please continue. Okay. Yes.
So you do a lot of battle sequences as part of voice acting. I was wondering if you've ever been in a fight IRL as like method acting. You ever went out and picked a fight like?
The closest I've been to in a fight is me and my friends would challenge each other to fights in which but they had rules. It was like, we'll stop. Yeah. Like Fight Club, only no headshots, because that could really hurt. And if somebody taps out, well, that rule's the same. If somebody taps out, then you're good. And we were allowed to fight about it. I mean, to talk about it. The first rule of our Fight Club was you can totally brag about Fight Club. The second rule was you can't really brag if you lose. So yeah, we would do that and not really hurt each other much because none of us were very strong. The worst that we got was me and my friend Parker were having a stick fight when we were 9, and we said no headshots, but like, I don't know, he must have like whipped my finger or something. And you ever have that brief moment of like real like visceral anger? Like it's just knee jerk, And so like he had whipped my finger and I was like, I'll show you. Smacked his face with a stick. And he had stitches above his eye.
Oh my god.
And he's a very successful, by my judgment, he's a very successful Twitch streamer now. Like he averages like 350 viewers, which is like real good. I don't know if y'all know like Twitch, like regular Twitch streamers like, in your life, but 300 that is a bigger room than this by far. But I've marked him. You can still see his little scar there. So it's just like the time I spat on Rick from The Walking Dead.
Like you do.
Everybody was at the zombie panel, right?
I was
I
No?
couldn't go.
I missed it, I'm sorry.
Different crowd. That's what I love about the zombie panel is it attracts a crowd that has nothing to do with me. They're there for the zombies. So I was a walker on The Walking Dead.
Oh.
For like 2 days. It was just a thing. Like it's not like an acting gig. It's like they usually use like companies that like just find extras, and the pay is like $9 an hour, but you get a kill bump if they kill you. So it's like you get an extra $50 if somebody has to like club you in the head or something like that because of the inherent risk, I assume. I got killed a lot, so it's great. Yeah. But there was I was wearing this horrible prosthetic for one of the like more heavily decomposed walkers. So like my hair was covered, and instead I had like wispy like old man hair, and I had contacts in. My whole face is covered. I've got dentures in to make it look like I've got like 2 teeth and a tongue lolling out. And mind you, like my actual mouth is like biting into these dentures, and so you keep your mouth open like this or extend it here at a time, you start to drool. And start drooling into the bottom of my prosthetic, which goes all the way down to here. And the drool goes like this, and it starts to work its way through the spirit glue or whatever. And down, down. And then it's coming out, and this is sort of the drainage point. It's just like right at the chest. And so what I start to do to circumvent this, because it's very uncomfortable, is I'll pull out the dentures periodically, and I'll just go like, just get out as much as I can, and then I'll put them back in, and it started to taste. So I guess they saw me doing that, and they're like, "Oh, that's good walker behavior, you know. This kid's method." Because the director, he's like, "You, yeah, the drooler. Come up here. Got something special for you." He's like, "All right. You're gonna try to bite Rick, okay?" So Rick's there. We shake hands, and so Rick is his son just got hurt, and so he's like rampaging, and so he's gonna like kill this walker, this walker, this walker. The camera's there, and I'm ominously coming up behind him while this is happening. So I'm like, and then I grab his arm, and I go, and Michonne's supposed to cut my head off, and so when I go like. Well, it took longer for this to set up than I thought, like for the scene itself to get set up, and I didn't want to drain again after I met everybody. I thought that might be in poor taste, and so like I had some buildup.
Oh my god.
And so I went, and I just right on his arm. Surely he noticed. So I've marked 2 famous people in my neck. One here and one here. Yeah. We got 5 minutes left. So yeah, any other queries? Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes. Generally, I go for yes. Next question. Yeah.
What was the first show that you ever wrote completely, and how was that?
I like fully adapted the scripts for? Yeah, sure. I'm trying to remember. That's wild. I spent the most time, I've written the most scripts for Fairy Tale, but I didn't write the majority of that by a long shot. I was alternating with that. It's just that it's such a long show that it still builds up fast. Indride, I wrote all of season 2. That was my first season of a show that I got all to myself. And Indride is a fascinating, if not quality show. It's about Hollow Earth theory. So inside of the Earth, there's, first of all, in the Arctic. First of all, the Earth is hollow. I hope y'all gathered that from the name of the theory. But there's a hole in the Arctic through which sunlight gets through, and then that sunlight hits a crystal which is suspended in the very center of the Earth, and that crystal gives sunlight to all of the inside of the Earth. And that is why there are living people there. So yeah, that's the basic premise. And then from there, it's just like real strange. Like none of the towns have names. We go across like they'll call it like the Great Sea sometimes. That kind of like level of detail because it was based on a phone game. So anyway, there's that, and I got to take a lot of liberties with that, which was fun because the director was like, I would like for there to be some level of like something going on here. So like I was able to like spruce it up and like add a couple jokes, that kind of thing. And then after that, I believe I started directing the shows that I was writing, and so that would be Nanbaka, Sugamomo. Yeah, Nanbaka is probably the first show that I could truly call mine because not only did I write the scripts, I then directed them. So, you know, I didn't rewrite my own lines. Not that it happened much with other people, but also like I got to pick my favorite alts and what have you, and I gave myself choose your own adventure novels, just like I do everybody else. Yeah. Any other questions? We might call it. Thanks so much. You were awesome. Get your hand up back there. We'll make you the last one.
So you said like how you have like a side job in addition to voice acting. So what would be like a side job?
I've waited tables. I've worked at World Market as a cashier. I've been a grocery bag boy. I worked at a movie theater. But now my main job. For a long time, my side job was the script writing, and I was also a contract director, so I would direct at nights. So those are ways to do it. Sarah, her side gig is, she has similar side gigs to that, but also she's an artist, and so she'll do commissions for people who, you know how like, if you've been through an autograph line, you know that they sell prints. And she draws some of the prints. She draws one of the prints that I use. And so people will commission her and pay her for that. So there's a lot of different ways, but yeah, everybody's got some sort of side hustle. You know, Vic does his music stuff as well, and a whole lot of cons. So yeah. All right, well anyway, thank y'all for coming. I think I'm doing a signing after this.
It's at 3 o'clock.
At 3 o'clock, yes.
Speaking of signing,